I never thought that a routine day at the local clinic would turn into a chaotic whirlwind of accusations and police involvement. Little did I know that one encounter with Karen, a relentless and suspicious woman, would lead to a dramatic chain of events that would test our reputation and sanity. Karen calls cops on doctor for giving her son drugs, they'll say. Here's how it all went down. I worked as a receptionist at the local clinic. It was a place of comfort for many, a small building with a welcoming sign and flowers always blooming by the entrance. That day the sun was high, casting a warm glow through the windows, and I was settling in for what I thought would be a typical Tuesday. Then she came in, Karen, a whirlwind of entitlement and suspicion, known in town for her confrontational nature. Her voice was sharp as she approached the desk, her eyes scanning the room like she was uncovering some deep conspiracy. "Good morning, Karen. What brings you in today?" I asked, trying to sound as friendly as possible. "It's Timmy. He's sick. I need Dr. Stevens to see him immediately," she demanded, her tone leaving no room for discussion. I nodded, aware of her reputation, and quickly arranged for Timmy to be seen. Dr. Stevens, with his usual calm demeanor, welcomed them into his office. From my desk, I could hear Karen's interrogation, questioning everything from the cleanliness of the instruments to the doctor's credentials. It was relentless. When they emerged, Karen was holding a prescription, her face contorted in anger. "He's prescribing drugs to my son. This is unacceptable," she exclaimed, her voice echoing through the clinic. "Karen, they're antibiotics. Timmy has an infection that needs to be treated," Dr. Stevens explained patiently. But Karen was having none of it. "I know a drug when I see one. I'm not letting you poison my son," she retorted, her voice rising to a near shriek. The situation escalated quickly. Karen, fueled by her own misguided beliefs, stormed out, threatening to take action. I exchanged a worried glance with Dr. Stevens, both of us hoping that her threats were just empty words. The next morning, the clinic was besieged by police cars. My heart sank as I saw Karen leading the officers inside. Her finger pointed accusingly at Dr. Stevens. "He's drugging my son! I want him arrested!" she yelled, her voice a mix of anger and triumph. The police, looking confused but obligated to investigate, began questioning Dr. Stevens. Karen's theatrics were hard to ignore, her accusations loud and dramatic. "It's just antibiotics, Karen. Timmy needs them," I interjected, hoping to bring some sense to the situation. "You're all in on this! You're drugging our children!" Karen shouted back, her eyes wild with fury. The clinic became a stage for Karen's crusade against perceived injustices, her voice drowning out reason and logic. After thorough investigation, the police concluded that no crime had been committed. Karen, however, was not satisfied. She vowed to expose the clinic's malpractices to the local media, her voice filled with a mix of anger and righteousness. Dr. Stevens stood amidst the chaos, a picture of calm in a storm. His concern wasn't for his reputation, but for the trust we had built in our community. Karen left, her mission unfulfilled, but her belief in her cause stronger than ever. She was a woman on a mission, blinded by her own convictions. The clinic returned to its usual quiet in the following days, but the incident left a lingering unease. Whispers and rumors circulated, but those who knew us stood by our side. Then, unexpectedly, Karen returned. Her demeanor was subdued and Timmy was with her, looking much better. "The antibiotics worked," she admitted grudgingly, avoiding eye contact. "But I still have my doubts about you people." She left quickly, her parting words hanging in the air like a dark cloud. It was a small victory, but a hollow one. As I watched her leave, I couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness for Karen. Her stubbornness and paranoia had turned her into a figure of ridicule, a symbol of the misinformation and distrust plaguing our society. In a world where facts were often overshadowed by fear and suspicion, Karens were not just a nuisance, they were a manifestation of a deeper, more troubling issue. And as the door closed behind her, I wondered how many more battles lay ahead, not against diseases or ailments, but against the growing tide of fear and ignorance in a world desperately in need of understanding and compassion. Wow, what a roller coaster of a story. Karen really needs to take a step back and trust the professionals. It's so important to separate fact from fiction. Great job to the clinic for staying calm and focused throughout this ordeal. In the aftermath of my ex-husband's sudden death, a woman claims to have had a child with him. With no proof of paternity, I face a difficult decision when asked to allow my daughter to undergo a DNA test. As secrets unravel and emotions run high, I find myself torn between protecting my daughter and confronting the painful truth. Here's how it all went down. My 43, ex-husband Duke, 54, and I divorced because he habitually cheated on me. We were divorced a little over 2 years when he died in a motorcycle accident. I paid for his funeral because of my daughter, 15, and despite everything, he was her father, and I didn't want the state to bury him. That was 4 months ago, and my daughter is doing well. I applied for survivor's benefits for her shortly after his funeral and have been receiving monthly payments. Yesterday, I received a phone call from my caseworker at the Social Security office informing me that a woman called claiming that she had a 3-year-old son by my ex-husband. However, the woman had no proof that the boy is actually my ex-husband's, no signed birth certificate or DNA test. The caseworker asked me if I would be willing to allow my daughter to do a DNA test to prove this child's paternity. I refused. I did the math, and this child was definitely conceived while I was still married to my ex. Furthermore, at the time of conception, I had gone through a very traumatic hysterectomy with major setbacks that nearly killed me. I suspect I know who this woman is, and she definitely knew my ex-husband and I were still married. I'm mad as heck, and I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing by refusing, but I was humiliated enough by my ex when he was alive, and I feel even more embarrassed now. I wrote this over a year ago when I first found out about the situation. I tried to post it in another group, but it wouldn't let me. I'm posting here now because I came across it in my posting history and really wanted to know what others think. Thanks in advance for any help you can suggest. About a month after learning about the existence of this little boy, I finally told my 17-year-old daughter. As you can imagine, she was shocked and deeply hurt by her father's actions. I explained the whole situation to her, but she wasn't ready to process it at that time. She requested some time, and I respected her wishes. It's worth mentioning that she has been in therapy since before, during, and after the divorce. Her relationship with her father was never close due to his belief that children should be seen and not heard, which caused a lot of problems, even when we were still together. The woman who had an affair with my husband was a work colleague and friend. We all worked together at the same place, although we now work in different areas. After receiving a call from my caseworker, several mutual acquaintances approached me and informed me that she wanted to have a conversation about her situation. I pondered over it for a few days, and ultimately decided to meet up with her. We met at a nearby coffee shop on a Saturday. She explained that she and my ex-husband started as friends, with him giving her advice on dealing with the father of her other 2 children. However, it quickly turned into flirting, hanging out, and eventually a full-blown affair. By the time suspicions arose about our relationship, she was already pregnant. She informed him about the pregnancy, and although he told her he wouldn't leave me, he promised to assist her with whatever the child needed. She was hurt and angry, but she felt trapped as she was already struggling to care for her 2 children and needed the help. She confessed that he was deeply in love with me and that she felt jealous of me for having him. Not once did this woman express remorse or offer an apology. When I asked her if she even considered the impact their affair had on my daughter, she callously replied that she had enough on her plate dealing with her own children and, frankly, didn't care about mine. These were her exact words. At that point, I informed her that I had informed my daughter about her son, but she showed outrage and insisted that I make my daughter participate in their scenario. She claimed that she was only part-time at our job and that she and her children couldn't survive on her income alone. I called her a derogatory name and explained that her lack of respect for my daughter's feelings was the reason I wouldn't force her into anything. I left her there, yelling at me as I walked away to my car. She has since quit working at our job. Over the past year, I have discussed the situation with my daughter, but she still doesn't want to be involved. I have made it clear that it's her decision, and I will support whatever she chooses. Both of my ex-husband's parents have passed away, and his only sister is deceased as well. He has an older brother, but they haven't communicated in decades due to his brother's drug issues. I tried to find information about him when my ex-husband died, but I couldn't find anything. It was a shock when the police finally contacted me, 2 full days after his death. I never hated him. I hated what he did. There's a difference. First of all, let me say I did not hate my husband. Hell, I don't even hate his affair partner. For those who think I'm trying to get some half-ass revenge on a toddler, let me say you're insane to feel that way. In the moment when all of this happened, I was in shock and total disbelief. I reacted without any real thought. I challenge anyone on here to say they haven't responded angrily with unwanted and unexpected news. However, I am a person who thinks of consequences to my actions, and that is why I sat down, calmed down, and figured out how to proceed. I talked to both my mom and my brothers before I talked to my daughter. They were also shocked, but urged me to talk to my daughter and get her input on this situation. As I said in my first update, my daughter has been in therapy before, during, and still after the divorce. I suggested to her to talk to her therapist about this. She did. Based on my daughter's feelings of being adamantly opposed to being involved, her therapist suggested I give her time, and I have. My daughter is a sweetheart, and I'm not saying this about her just because she's mine, but it has been a lot for her to deal with at one time. I'm sure in the end she will change her mind, but I refuse to pressure her into it. It has to be 100% her decision. Some of you think I hate my ex-husband, and I'm using this situation to get back at him. I do not. I hated what he did, that is all. My ex and I talked at least twice a week. We had disagreements, sure, like other people. I wish he would have told me honestly. The affair had long been out in the open. I'm not going to say I would have enjoyed hearing it, but at least we would have known. See, we're too busy living, and oftentimes we subconsciously think everything will work out for the best. It never goes that way though, does it? If he would have told us, we could have long gotten over any shock, hurt, or resentment, and possibly the kids could have met each other a long time ago. I would have known about the boy, and we all would have been better prepared when he died. Who knows? But I'm no longer angry or hurt. Please believe me when I tell you that I want an amicable solution to this as much as you do. That day in the coffee shop with her, I once again reacted. But I'm human with feelings and emotions just like all of you. My ex-husband had no one else but us. As I said, he has a brother who's dealing with drug issues, whom I spent weeks trying to locate, and I couldn't. I would never have let him be buried by the state because at the end of the day, we still loved him. I was married to him for 17 years, for goodness sake. The situation is incredibly complex and emotionally charged. The narrator is faced with a difficult decision regarding allowing their daughter to undergo a DNA test to determine the paternity of the child in question. The story highlights the complex dynamics of relationships, infidelity, and the impact of these actions on the individuals involved, especially the children. It is a reminder that actions have consequences, and that navigating such situations requires careful consideration and empathy for all parties involved. My life seemed perfect until I discovered my husband's secret affair with my best friend Jay. As I navigated the aftermath of betrayal, the lines between love, friendship, and desire blurred, leaving me torn between my past and an uncertain future. Here's how it all went down. My 24-year-old female husband, 29-year-old male, and I have been in a relationship for 6 years. We got married 3 years ago. I thought our relationship was perfect. There were never any signs of anything being wrong. He always came home and left for work on time. He was always affectionate, and I thought our relationship was perfect. But then, when he was in the shower, I saw a notification on his phone from a girl on Instagram whom I had never seen before. I opened his phone with his passcode. He had always been very open with me about his passcode and things like that. I had never checked his phone before because I didn't feel the need to. When I opened Instagram, which I didn't even know he had downloaded, I found messages to small influencers who posted revealing photos. I am in no way against them, but my husband was clearly flirting with them. His account had some photos of him, with some heavy filtering, and his bio said he was 25 and single. I was shocked, obviously, and just kept staring at the phone. But I couldn't stop looking. I took screenshots and sent them to myself with the usernames of the girls. When my husband came out of the shower, he found me crying and on his phone. He quickly realized what happened and started to comfort me and tell me it was just a one-time mistake. I asked if he had gone on dates or slept with any other women. Then he got angry and started shouting at me, claiming that I invaded his privacy. He kicked me out of the house and I went to a friend's home. I had never seen that side of him before. In 6 years, he had always been so sweet and loving. Sometimes he would get angry, but I know everyone does, and I can't blame him for that. I understand that men may have urges to cheat sometimes because of biological factors, so I don't blame him. I just wished he would talk to me. My friend told me I'm being delusional and made a good point about how he hadn't apologized yet. I have been lurking here for a while, but now I feel lost and in need of advice. After reading comments and advice from people, I realized that I deserve better. I deserve someone who loves me for who I am and doesn't need someone else to fulfill their needs. However, something bothered me about everything. In the screenshots I had, there was this girl who seemed to be the main person he texted and flirted with. She was 23, and it made me feel terrible because she appeared to be so in love with him. I found her Instagram and messaged her to let her know what had happened. She was furious when she found out. To avoid referring to her as she, I'll call her JJ, was clearly upset about the situation and kept apologizing to me. Then she asked if we could meet for coffee to talk about everything. I agreed out of curiosity. The next day, we met up and I shared my story about my husband, and she told me how they met and how long they had been dating. It turns out he had been dating her behind my back for 10 months. 10 months! It was insane to me that he found the time to do this without me noticing. But here's the shocking part. He was still texting her. Jay, being a vengeful person, told me that she wanted to lead my husband on. She had been cheated on before and wasn't going to let another cheater off the hook so easily. Jay gave me a pep talk about being a strong and powerful woman and the importance of sticking together, which was really refreshing. She said she would continue to flirt with him and try to get him to invite her to our house. Apparently, he only met her at hotels or her home. Then, she planned to throw glitter all over his belongings. Honestly, the thought made me laugh because I knew my husband would be furious. So, I allowed her to do it because I don't care about my things getting damaged in the process. I wasn't a big spender, so I didn't have much, and I wouldn't be surprised if whatever I did have was already destroyed by him. I am feeling much better now compared to when I made that post. Although I still feel upset and have a lingering sense of guilt, thanks to you guys, Jay, and the amazing friend I've been staying with, I am feeling a lot better. My emotions now include anger and frustration, but I am mostly exhausted. I have reached out to a lawyer, and dealing with the legal process is complicated and something I would rather avoid. All I want is to be free from him. I feel disgusted with myself and betrayed. I am mourning the relationship I had, but upon reflection I realize that I was always tense and a mere shell of myself. I apologize for rambling. I forgot to mention in my previous post, which I thought was obvious, that Jay genuinely had no knowledge of my husband's lies. I could sense her deep upset, a feeling that is difficult to describe through text. She expressed sincere apologies to me for the situation and felt a great deal of guilt herself. Trust me when I say that she has no intentions of getting back together with my husband. I've tried writing this post lots of times, but I couldn't figure out how I wanted to do it. There's been so much going on and it's been crazy, so I'm sorry if this doesn't make much sense and for the slow update. So at first I was staying with my friend who, for the sake of consistency, we'll call KK, has been a huge help and I have appreciated her so much. Jay was originally going to go through with the glitter plan. She updated me every step of the way, even sending me pictures of her buying the glitter. She'd send me screenshots of the text between her and my husband. It didn't even take her long to convince my husband to let her come over, because he clearly thought since I was gone, I wouldn't find out. Jay told me they watched a movie, and before things escalated, he went to the bathroom, in which she quickly pulled out the glitter and threw it at his side of the closet in our bedroom. She then ran, taking a few photos of the crime scene before she left. My husband was furious. It was this bright pink glitter that was sprayed all over his work clothes. I'm the one who does the laundry, so he had no way of figuring out how to get it out. The funniest part is this man had the audacity to call me an hour after she left and beg me to come home, probably to clean his clothes, honestly. I wish I could show you how he sounded when I said no and that I was filing for divorce. He was so shocked and kept stumbling over his words. He never expected that I'd have the guts to do it. The months following weren't easy, and my ex-husband was not cooperating or being easy when I was trying to divorce him. He'd switch between calling me names to sobbing and begging me to forgive him. J and K were my rocks and made sure that I didn't forgive him. I'm so grateful for them because at some points I felt like giving up and taking him back. Jay especially was great because as much as I love Kay, she's very traditional. A little background, I guess, but I didn't have many friends, and when I got married, I had even fewer. My husband didn't like me going out much. The only friend that I had to fight to keep was Kay. She's my childhood best friend. Kay, at first, let me stay at her house, and she was shocked by my husband's betrayal. She thought we'd eventually get back together. After seeing all the horrible things he called me, though, she quickly switched to my side. But I know she still has some thoughts that she's not expressing with me. Jay knew what it was like to be cheated on in a long-term relationship, and she had gotten out of an abusive relationship too. It was like a breath of fresh air because she was the complete opposite of me. She was very loud and outgoing. She's a huge feminist and was so sad that I was so isolated from my femininity. Jay often took me out shopping and encouraged me to be bold and pick things that I liked for myself. We ended up going on a road trip together during early March because I was really struggling with my ex-husband and I was exhausted. So we went camping together for a week with no internet connection. That was my first time camping and it was really fun, but definitely never again. Ha ha ha. Last week, my ex-husband tried showing up at Kay's place, where I'm staying, and that was a whole issue because he knew Kay wouldn't be home when he came. It was so scary. He was pounding on the door like crazy and screaming. I feel so bad for the neighbors. Luckily, Jay had been over when he showed up because she gave him a piece of her mind and told him that if he didn't leave, she was going to call the police. I'm so grateful for her because I was just frozen and watching this unfold. I've never been good with conflict. Anyway, yeah, that's kind of what's been going on so far. I don't know. I'm really hoping my ex-husband leaves me alone. I'll update you guys if anything interesting happens. I recently ended a horrible marriage with the help of my best friend and my ex-husband's mistress. JJ has been incredibly supportive and lovely. She has shown me how to be independent and enjoy life. I was always expected to be quiet and obedient, but she taught me to stand up for myself and do things I truly want. She is fun, kind, and I appreciate her so much. However, here's the dilemma. I think I might have romantic feelings for her. This is crazy to me because I've never considered women in that way, and I just got out of a relationship. I'm not sure what to do. I feel like a high school girl when I'm around her, with butterflies in my stomach and a deep sense of happiness. I've been researching this topic, but I'm still unsure if I'm gay or not. I'm just lost. I really like her and I want to ask her on a date, but I don't know if she's interested in women. I'm also afraid of losing her as a friend if things don't work out. I'm just so confused. It doesn't help that she's affectionate with me. For instance, during a recent movie night, she fell asleep on my shoulder, and it made me melt. Lately, I've been nervous around her, fearing that she might suspect something. Does anyone have any advice? I would normally post on a relationship advice forum, but they removed my previous post, so I'm hesitant to post there again. I forgot to mention that she is not dating my ex-husband. In fact, she was disgusted when she found out about our marriage and wanted to make it up to me. I posted about this before. I, 25-year-old female, and my ex-husband, 30-year-old male, have been thinking about getting back together. My roommate, Jay, 24-year-old female, who is also my best friend, doesn't know, but I know she would be totally against it. It's a long story that I've posted about on my profile, but in summary, my husband cheated on me a lot. Jay was one of his affair partners, and I reached out to Jay. She had no idea, and we became best friends from there. She has helped me through so much, especially during the divorce process. She cheered me up and helped me discover who I am outside of my relationship. But recently, my husband showed up at the apartment begging for me to take him back. It was frightening. He looked terrible, crying, and telling me he didn't know what to do without me. He mentioned that his mother was sick and her condition was worsening. He convinced me to go on one date with him, but I felt like I was leading him on, so I continued hanging out with him. He has been nicer to me now. He tells me he loves me and buys me flowers. It's starting to feel like when we first met. This has been happening for about 2 months now, and nobody knows about it. However, he is pushing for our relationship to be public. I can't make it public without my best friend knowing, and I know she would strongly disapprove. My best friend has a strong aversion towards my ex-husband. She despises him for how he hurt me, and how he hurt her as well. She is extremely protective of me, and may think that he is manipulating or holding me hostage. I don't want to lose her as a friend, but I miss my husband and the feeling of being married. We haven't completed the divorce process yet because he has been resistant to it, and it seems like we might not need it. Additionally, my best friend might think everything is moving too fast, especially since I plan on moving out soon. After going through such a tumultuous journey of betrayal, self-discovery, and finding support in unexpected places, it's clear that the path to healing is not always linear. This story highlights the complexity of relationships, the power of friendship, and the potential for personal growth amidst heartbreak. It serves as a reminder that sometimes the most pivotal moments in our lives come from the most unexpected sources, paving the way for new beginnings and a stronger sense of self. In the world of pulsating beats and vibrant lights, my wife's provocative outfits have always captivated me. But when my brother and sister-in-law were invited to join us, I couldn't help but feel uneasy about her revealing attire in their presence. Little did I know this innocent request would set off a chain of events that would challenge our relationship and force us to confront our deepest desires. Here's how it all went down. So a little background, my wife has been going to electronic dance music, EDM festivals, since before we met. The music isn't really my thing, but I've attended several with her and always have a good time. When we attend these festivals, her choice of outfits is quite revealing. Thongs, pasties, body paint, and the like. I was a little taken aback at first, but honestly, she looks amazing. I actually find it somewhat arousing and don't have any issues with it since I'm with her. My brother got married a few months ago and his wife and mine have become good friends, which is great. She even invited my wife, and by extension my brother, to the next festival we plan on attending, and my wife eagerly accepted. Herein lies the problem. While I love my wife's festival outfits when we're among strangers or festival friends that we only see once a year, I'm not comfortable at all with her wearing such revealing outfits around my brother. I don't think it's appropriate. I asked my wife if she would tone it down for the festival. I'm not saying dress conservatively, but perhaps not have her bottom and breasts exposed. I expressed my preference for my brother, whom we see often, not to easily imagine her nearly naked. She explained that she puts a lot of effort into her outfits and that it's part of her festival experience. I acknowledged her perspective, but then suggested that we simply not go with my family. We could cancel our plans with them and attend another festival, just the two of us, as we usually do. She believes that my request is unreasonable and that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. She also pointed out that canceling or disinviting my brother and sister-in-law would be incredibly rude. She was looking forward to attending the festival with her friend, my sister-in-law. She thinks I'm being controlling. Am I the jerk here? I deleted the throwaway account of the original post, but the gist of it is that my wife dresses very provocatively at events when we go together, which I love. However, she invited my brother and sister-in-law to the next event without consulting me first. I asked her to tone down the outfit since my brother will be there or cancel on them. She thought these were unreasonable requests and that I was being controlling, Many of you agreed and gave me a lot to think about, but it still didn't sit right with me, so I tried explaining my position better, taking into account what people said to make a stronger argument. When I came home from work, I asked my wife to have another discussion about the issue because I wasn't comfortable with how we left it. My wife started by saying she was a little hurt that I called her outfits inappropriate and that it seemed like I thought she was doing something wrong. She said she got defensive and went into nobody tells me what to wear mode instinctively. She also felt hurt that I wanted to shut down what she thought was a nice gesture. I apologized and told her that I may not have communicated well because I was taken by surprise, but I don't find her outfits inappropriate. In fact, I really like them and think she looks gorgeous. However, I am uncomfortable with her wearing them in front of my family. I mentioned to her that she keeps photos of us together when she's wearing those outfits in a private folder on her phone. I also mentioned that she only posts tame photos from the event on social media. I never asked her to do that. She explained that she doesn't want people from work to see and get the wrong impression since she works in a professional setting. I asked her if she would wear those outfits in front of my mother, and she said no because my mother is older and wouldn't understand that she doesn't intend it in a sexual way. She keeps the private folder so that nobody accidentally comes across those photos. So I explained that we both agree on setting boundaries on who it's appropriate to show and who it's not. We just have a disagreement on who falls on which side of the line. I understand that the people at the event get it, and maybe my sister-in-law gets it, but this experience will be completely new to my brother. He may view some of the more extreme outfits in a sexual way, especially with dancing and MDMA involved. I don't think he would act inappropriately, but I would prefer he not see my wife like that. It could potentially cause awkwardness between us. I also told her that if she dressed a little more conservatively just this one time, it would make me more comfortable and allow me to enjoy the event with her and my family. She said she understood my perspective but still had some concerns. She hopes that my sister-in-law enjoys herself and wants to continue coming with us, which would likely mean my brother too. Would I expect her to permanently change? I said that we don't even know if they're going to enjoy it or want to come back. We only go 2-3 times a year. If they end up liking it and wanting to go every year, I'm willing to stop going on my yearly motorcycle trip with the guys and use that time and money to go 3-4 times a year. We can have one event with them where we keep it PG-13 and the rest can be just the two of us, like we usually do. This way, she won't miss out on the full festival experience, but we'll also have a family experience. I also explained that I'm happy that she and my sister-in-law get along well, and I'm excited for her to share this experience with her friend. However, I prefer it to be just her and me because it's like an escape from our regular life where we can be ourselves. Bringing people from our everyday life means I have to be more reserved and can't fully let loose. She said she totally understands and thinks we just had some miscommunication. She thinks it's a good plan. She also mentioned that she appreciates me being willing to give up my motorcycle trips, as she knows how much I enjoy them. We're going to look for some new outfits together that will still look great. What I learned from this thread is that some of you are wild, calling for divorce on her end and on my end. Absolute unwillingness to compromise and getting insulted at being asked, how do you go through life or relationships like that? Divorce over minor disagreements. Then there are people who feel the need to call a stranger a slut, hoe, etc. I mean, even if you feel that way, what possesses someone to type it out? And the requests for pictures, gross. Anyway, all is good between us now. I learned a little about communicating my concerns better. Everyone is excited for the event, and for those of you who were truly helpful, thanks. In the intricate dance of relationships, the story of the provocative festival outfits reveals the nuanced complexities of personal boundaries, communication, and compromise. It highlights how a seemingly simple matter of attire can unearth deeper issues of comfort, perception, and respect within a relationship. Ultimately, this experience serves as a testament to the importance of understanding, empathy, and the willingness to find middle ground, ensuring that both partners feel heard and valued in their unique expressions and concerns. As a 27-year-old woman navigating the unpredictable world of online dating, I never imagined that swiping right on a seemingly intriguing profile would plunge me into a harrowing ordeal with a man whose fantasies of chaos and destruction at a nuclear power plant chilled me to the bone. My Tinder date, a 32-year-old shift leader in a control room, transformed from a potential romantic interest into a nightmare, revealing a disturbing desire to unleash catastrophe and a vendetta against women. Here's how it all went down. So I, 27F, recently went on a Tinder date with this guy, 32M, who works at a nuclear power plant. He seemed interesting over text, but the actual date turned into a complete nightmare. He showed up 45 minutes late with no apology and immediately started bragging about his job as a shift leader in the control room. His attitude was really off-putting. He talked about having power over midgets and vermin, referring to people in general, which was extremely disturbing. He ranted about how much he hated everyone he saw and expressed a desire to cause chaos and destruction. I tried to change the topic, but he kept fixating on his job. Then things took a turn for the worse. He started bragging about knowing how to trigger a reactor core meltdown, and laughed about it as if it were a joke. I couldn't tell if he was serious, but it completely freaked me out. It seemed like he found pleasure in the idea of using his position to cause a catastrophe. I ended the date early, went home, and couldn't stop thinking about what he said. Was he trying to impress me in a sick way, or could he actually be dangerous? After a lot of thought, I decided to report him to the FBI. I figured it's better to be safe than sorry, right? But now I'm second-guessing myself. Some friends think I did the right thing, but others say I should have just ignored it since he was probably joking. I can't shake the feeling that I may have overreacted and potentially ruined someone's career over a bad joke. So Reddit, am I a jerk for reporting my Tinder date to the FBI for bragging about being able to cause a meltdown? A lot has happened in the past 24 hours. After the date, the guy started bombarding my phone with over 100 texts and voicemails. He became increasingly angry because I wasn't responding. At first, he was talking about how I'm the perfect girl, the girl of his dreams, and how he wants me to be his sidekick as he pursues his goals. He compared us to Harley Quinn and Joker and so on. Then, as I continued to ignore him, he became more and more enraged, leaving disturbing voicemails about who knows what. He started going on these rants, similar to what you might see on the R Nice Guys subreddit. He kept complaining about how women have never given him a chance and how he's going to teach them all a lesson. Finally, I decided to respond. I was furious and wanted to confront him. I told him that I contacted the FBI and shared the details of our interaction. He claimed he didn't care because he believed they couldn't take any action against him. I called him out on his bluff, using information from experts who explained that commercial reactors have multiple automatic safeguards to prevent an individual from causing any harm. Then, he sent me a picture of a thumb drive. He claimed that the thumb drive contained code written in C that could disable certain safety systems. He boasted about his self-proclaimed expertise in cybersecurity and claimed to know how to bypass these systems. He told me about his disturbing plan to harm others and cause chaos. He said he was doing all this out of anger towards women and to instigate violence. He gave me the ultimatum of joining him or facing consequences. At that point, I had had enough. I forwarded these messages to the FBI, as well as to the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and the Homeland Security tip line, just as others had suggested. However, I still haven't received any response. Regardless of whether his claims were empty threats or not, it's crucial to take any potential risks seriously, especially when it involves matters of national security. It's a reminder that we should always trust our instincts and prioritize personal safety over concerns of potentially overreacting. Hopefully, my actions will lead to a thorough investigation and prevent any harm from occurring. Your experience with the Tinder date is deeply concerning and highlights the importance of taking potential threats seriously, especially when they involve critical infrastructure like a nuclear power plant. Reporting him to the FBI, the NRC, and the Homeland Security tip line was a responsible and prudent action. It's far better to err on the side of caution in situations where someone is making threats of violence or harm, particularly when they claim to have the means and knowledge to carry them out. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.